Today, Alaska is home to 736,000 people. Although many will immediately think of a snowy and cold environment, Alaska does have four seasons, with summer temperatures reaching 80 degrees Fahrenheit in some areas. Despite Alaska being remote and geographically challenging, humans have settled the region since the last ice age, giving the country a rich and long history of human inhabitation. Historians believe that humans have inhabited Alaska since at least 10,000 BCE. It is thought that this migration was made possible by the last glacial maximum, during which so much water was frozen in ice sheets that sea levels were around 120 meters lower than they are today. Huge tracts of land, now submerged under the waves today, were available for land animals to roam and forage, including Homo sapiens. A land bridge between Alaska and Siberia in the Bering Strait turned Asia and North America into one huge continent. While previously it has been believed that the Bering Land Bridge was a narrow corridor in the frozen wasteland, historians are now postulating that the now sunken landmass could have been nearly the size of Australia and stretched roughly 994 miles from north to south and 2,983 miles east to west, joining Canada to Russia. Historians have named the landmass Beringia. Far from being a tundra, fossil and pollen evidence suggests that it was populated by a diverse range of animals, with wildflowers and shrubs blooming there in the summer. While much of the northern hemisphere was covered with ice, it seems Beringia was home to steppe bison, Pleistocene horses, antelope, and camels, which suggests a possible motive for human migration. Evidence at some archaeological sites indicates that humans may have lived in Beringia as long as 21,000 years ago, nearly 9,000 years earlier than conservative estimates. Around 13,000 years ago, the last ice age ended. The huge continental ice sheets melted, releasing billions of gallons of fresh water and raising sea levels. Beringia was submerged beneath the Arctic waters, separating Alaska from the Asian continent. The migrant groups who remained included the Athabascans, the Unangan, the Inuit, the Yupik, and the Tlingit. The Athabascans lived in small groups of around 20 to 40 people. They were nomadic and moved throughout Alaska following the seasonal availability of resources. They would have two base camps the whole community would use. One was a summer fishing base, and the other was a winter village. The Athabascans utilized several traditional house types, including structures that were partially underground, rectangular log homes with sod roofs, and dome-shaped structures that were covered with moose skin, sown birch bark, or caribou hide. Their social structure was, and still is, predominantly matrilineal, with children belonging to their mother's clan. The core of the Athabascans' traditional groups were often a woman and her brother, as well as their respective families. The brother usually became the lifelong hunting partner of his sister's husband, and also took responsibility for training and teaching his nieces and nephews about the clan's history and customs. For transportation, they would use canoes made with willow or birch frames covered in birch bark that was attached using spruce roots and sealed with the resin from spruce trees. Larger boats were covered in hide, usually bear or moose. Sleds were often common, but were not pulled by dogs. Instead, dogs were used for hunting and protection. The Unangan, later dubbed the Aleut by Russian explorers, lived on the Aleutian Island chain and were hunters, whalers, and fishers. They relied on resources from the sea, and the men hunted seals, otters, sea lions, whales, and even walrus, while the women obtained resources from the land, including grasses for basket weaving, wild plants, berries, mollusks, and birds. As they were not as nomadic as tribes on the mainland, they developed preservation techniques that allowed them to store and use summertime resources during the winter. Living on the island chain made the Unangan extremely resourceful and gave them a unique talent for living in harmony with their unforgiving environment. Today, most Unangan people still live a subsistence lifestyle, fishing, hunting, and gathering food as needed. They live by the motto, Mananchan Ilam Axtalakan Aglasachan, meaning don't do anything to excess, and their traditional lifestyle has little impact on the environment. The homelands of the Inuit demonstrate the ancient history of Beringia, as they encompass Kulallet Nunat in Greenland, Arctic Canada, as part of Chukotka in the Far East region of Russia, and northern and southwestern Alaska. However, the Inuit differentiate themselves culturally according to their dialect. The Alaskan Inuit were hunters and fishermen, hunting whales, walruses, seals, caribou, and muskoxen. Due to a lack of land vegetation, the Inuit gathered seaweed to supplement their diet. To hunt at sea, the Inuit used boats covered in sealskin called kayaks, later anglicized as kayaks, which were one-person boats that could be easily righted if overturned. They also made larger open boats for transportation. In winter, the Inuit would make holes in the ice and wait for air-breathing seals and walruses to surface. According to the Inuit tradition, they learned this from observing polar bears waiting by holes in the ice. Women would make clothes using needles fashioned from bones and thread from animal guts. Although any animal hide was used, sealskins were usually worn in the summer, while caribou were preferred in the colder months as it was lightweight and warm, making it perfect for winter clothes. The Yupik people were also found in northeastern Russia and have ancestral links to both the Inuit and Unangan cultures. Historically, they lived in southwest Alaska, fishing, hunting, and gathering food. Their traditional housing varied, but the most common, especially in the northern communities, was semi-subterranean structures that were entered via underground tunnels. The males of the tribe lived communally in the Kaskik as soon as they were old enough to leave their mothers, which was around the age of 5. And the women also lived communally in an ina, which was where the children were raised and the community's food was cooked. Villages were organized around family groups, and social rank was dictated by skill and what the individual offered the community. Like the Unangan, the Yupik were nomadic and traveled between seasonal camps and villages depending on the availability of resources. Family groups would spend the spring and summer fishing in coastal areas before the community would come together again in the fall and the winter. They also used kayaks, which boys were taught to make during the winter months spent in the Kaskik. While boys were taught to fashion tools and build boats, young girls would learn how to sew, cook, and weave, as well as make the equipment and materials needed. In western Alaska, the Yupik used the waterways that crossed the marshy plains like roads, easily traversing the boggy landscape. The Tlingit people settled in the southeast of Alaska. The Tlingit is known for their intricate woodwork, and they created totem poles carved from trunks of trees that show animals, mystical symbols, and family crests. These totem poles are used to communicate stories and legends and display a family's social status. The Tlingit lived in large wood and cedar bark plank houses that were shared by multiple families. They were, and are, a matrilineal culture, tracing their ancestry through their mother's line. The Tlingit tribe had a vast trade network thanks to their proximity to the ocean and several waterways. They even kept up trade with Native American tribes to the south. Like other Alaskan tribes, they hunted wild game, fished for seafood, and gathered wild berries and plants. They developed preservation techniques, such as smoking, drying, and fermenting foods so they would last the winter months. During the 1700s, Alaska came to Russia's attention when indigenous Siberians reported the existence of a landmass lying to the east. In 1728, Tsar Peter I commissioned an expedition, led by Danish mariner Vitus Bering, to explore the land. Bering determined that the new region was not linked to the Russian mainland, but he did not locate North America due to thick fog. Bering was honored for his explorations, and the strait between Russia and Alaska was given his name, as was the once dry landmass beneath the sea. The first Russian settlement in Alaska was established in 1784, bringing disease and death to the Unangan people. The Russians exploited the abundance of otters, decimating the population for profit in the fur trade. The indigenous population clashed with the newcomers, although the relationship improved slightly with the formation of the Russian-American Company in 1799. The Russian-American Company fell into a bitter rivalry with Britain and America over the fur trade, which was resolved in 1824 by separate Russian treaties with America and Britain that established trade boundaries and commercial regulations. By the mid-1800s, the sea otter had been hunted to near extinction, meaning the supply of otter pelts had dried up. The end of the lucrative fur trade in Alaska, combined with the political consequences of the Crimean War, resulted in Russia selling Alaska to the United States without any regard for the indigenous people who inhabited the region. The sale was known as Seward's Folly, after the U.S. Secretary of State, William Seward, negotiated the $17.2 million, today equating to around $129 million, deal despite many critics insisting that there was nothing of value in the territory. However, when gold was found in the adjoining area of British Columbia and the Yukon in the late 1800s, the gold rush made America aware of the economic potential of their new acquisition. The gold rush brought a new stream of destruction to Alaska, with miners using hydraulic equipment, producing toxic runoff and depleting entire forests for fuel and building materials. As a result, food sources for the native population were decimated. Herds of moose, caribou, and small game were dramatically reduced as habitats were cleared and miners hunted them for food. Salmon streams were destroyed and new diseases were introduced to the local populations. The impact on the native people was considerable, as the newcomers failed to adhere to the local traditions of sustainable living. Although some native tribes took advantage of short-term benefits, such as selling the prospectors food and supplies or working as guides, the long-term environmental impact caused a huge decline in the region's indigenous population. The native inhabitants of Alaska continued to argue their claim to the land, which was finally recognized in 1971 when Richard Nixon signed the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act. As the largest land settlement of its kind, 44 million acres of land and $962.5 million were transferred to 13 for-profit Alaskan Native regional corporations that were designed to serve Native Alaskans, as well as 200 for-profit Alaskan village corporations. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about the history of Alaska, check out our book, Alaska Natives, A Captivating Guide to the History of the Indigenous Peoples of Alaska. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Also, grab your free mythology bundle ebook while it's still available. All links are in the description. If you found the video captivating, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.